Alright, keep trying to fucking record this speech and keep getting interrupted, so take 3. Order is going to be new theory argument, warming, DDEV, group, hedge, and the air power, just the impact debate on hedge, and then the space colonization, then the critique. Alright, here it goes. First, the multiple worlds are about to make several contradictory claims. In the one, C says warming is fake, then says it open trade routes. It then says it open trade routes. Reads DDEV, then says it collapses. The collapse leads to extinction from Russell War. This is bad for debate. Leads to 2AC times cube. We can't sever parts of the plan, which means we can't answer all the arguments. Meaning he can always go for one at the end of the round. It's a vote for fairness and education and warming. We prefer all our impacts with qualified analysts that indicate the intensity of warming will eventually lead to more earthquakes and tsunamis with cause extinction. Charlie makes unwarranted claims. Extends cinematic evidence. Warming is more powerful than warming. To vote affirmative on time frame probability. It's also anthropogenic. Our authors cite numerous studies which all conclude the greenhouse gas emissions are rising at a rate equal with that of CO2 levels. Means it's anthropogenic. Also, his impact term saying the same thing indicates that it's anthropogenic, and Russia is not a threat. Blockstone 2008. It is a little chance of another armed confrontation with the West. Russia possesses weapons can only produce them on any scale. The Kremlin's victories pale in comparison to that of the West. It won't go war and impoverish the West to the point that it'll become uncomfortable for business oligarchs to spend time in London and south of France. As the boom becomes a bust of cash could run for financing criminals' ambitious policies. Russia, in other words, is weaker than it appears. Arctic oil routes lead to resource wars. Rowell in 2012. The next resource war may happen in the Arctic. The race for resources could lead to conflict in the Arctic. Cascading interest in the broad implications stemming from the effects of climate change cause towards a zone of competition or worse, a zone of conflict. And it's in the Bauer in 2009 evidence says the resource wars cause extinction. Only a risk that we solve these turns by not allowing the trade routes to open. Economic growth prevents proliferation means there's no impact to his NATO arguments. Since 1992, there are strong economic pressures on the arms producing nations to maintain high levels of nuclear technology, where buyers can be found without a rival of national economies, and the global economy and production and proliferation of weapons will continue. And DDEV. No instance when history has declined but accepted will always accept and pursue growth means that all of its impacts will probably be BS. No chance that growth continues. Growth causes extinction. Further, his environmental claims are disproven by any instance of growth. Extend the Dyson Stern 2008 events says that economic growth is needed to drive low carbon technology to solve warming. Only a risk that we solve this extinction. And the worst wars in history happened during the upswing. Motive was the downswing, and economic decline causes terrorism. And the interventionist major power wars rusted in 1983. Hitler cannot have come to power without the terrible economic attrition and stagnation that caused insecurity, fear, and frustration in the minds of the governing elite, leading them to overreact to foreign threats and decide to fight a rival immediately before their own economy has become so further weakened. Major powers are more likely to go to war periods when the power transition relative to the principal rival has changed, and perhaps especially when the rate of decline intensifies or weakens. And economic growth guarantees Russian political stability. Adamonis in 2010. If the Russian economy grows, if Putin and Medvedev team entirely secure, if Diamond and Vlad can survive the international financial crack 2008-2009, they can drive virtually anything. And political instability causes U.S. nuclear strike on the United States. Prior in 1999. Russian internal trouble such as leadership crisis, coup, or civil war could aggravate Russia's fears of foreign aggression and lead to a miscalculation of U.S. intentions or nuclear overreaction if the United States might find itself a victim of preemptive strike and other reasons of war escalation born of Russian domestic troubles. Mindset shift is impossible. The public won't be convinced that consumer culture is bad. 1992. Lewis 92. Eco-radical political strategy is self-defeating. Radicals hope that massive ideological campaign can transform popular perceptions of radical views that come to dominate many environmental circles, and their effect on the populace at large has been minimal. Decades of preaching have little effect, and changing ideas alone is insufficient. Sufficient policies must still be formulated, and specific policy plans must be devised as those policies are ever to be realized. And growth is inevitable. Gibson, Graham, 2006. Accumulation brings us other meaning, which is the status of central process is a systemic imperative cannot help but reinforce. I'm thinking of the growth imperative and traditionally associated with the capitalist economies. Growth remains unquestioned law of capitalist development. Politics must at least accommodate those foster capitalist expansion. And Turner's central world is fantasy. Capitalist growth will always occur. Ibis Turner in 2001. Communes collapse. Communities to embody pre-capitalist values, not succeeding in cutting itself off from capitalist influence from the market and from other influences of the modern world. While we can learn from the antecedent societies, we can no longer return to them. The door has been closed. And air power and hedge. Vietnam doesn't mean anything. Hitler destroyed London in a matter of days with his air power, leaving them immobile on the brink of destruction until the Americans came to the rescue. Air power failed in Vietnam because of the Ho Chi Minh Trail. They went underground. Bunker busters solved. Now learn history, Charlie. Air power destroyed Saddam's regime overnight and sent him into hiding until the United States found him 2 weeks later, or 2 months later. Extend the China impact. Their air power causes extinction as soon as collapse happens. Our evidence indicates that it's happening now. Means that our time frame is better, should be weighed against DDEV. DDEV causes extinction, and the impact isn't based on decline, only off of Chinese rise in power. Our evidence evidence indicates only the United States economy would collapse probably answers the economic reasons as to why China would not attack us in the status quo. When we collapse, the economic standards no longer exist, and they no longer rely on our military, meaning that China would probably attack us extinction instantly and space. Hawking makes several claims to how extinction could happen within the next 200 years due to disease and other issues. Means you ignore his 1 billion years arguments as to when we would need space colonization, especially since he makes claims pertaining to extinction in a recent time frame as 1 and C, and economic growth is needed for space colonization. DDEV would shut out the opportunity window of getting off the rock. Egdahl in 1994. This stage of our evolution is considered the critical stage. We need a narrow window to get into space a relatively short time, during which we have the capability. Expansion into space demands high technology and full utilization of our wealth material resources. It also demands financial resources that we will not have if we deplete material resources on Earth. It demands human resources, it demands spiritual resources, and we are not likely to retain under the sort of dictatorship that we would necessary to maintain a sustainable global civilization. The transformation of our sun is distant, but if we don't expand into space now, we can never do it. Even if our mom we survive stagnation, it will be too late to escape into space in the solar system. And the critique. Neoliberalism created the capitalism, and what we see today means rejection. Neoliberalism created capitalism, and the way we see it today means rejection is the end of capitalism, ceding power to the state. Twithell in 1999. Hegemony of the neoliberal ideology in the 1980s in the United States and Great Britain helped make the integration of financial markets in the decade possible. Martin notes the new bankers, e-bankers, marginalizing the state and the financial capital, replaced the former system of e-social bargaining in the state and the labor and national capital, resulting in the state ceding considerable power to the financial markets organized at a superstate level. This move discussed itself in the status inclination towards the financial interest and the degradation of financial institutions, titled state power tilted state power towards financial markets and reduce the bargaining power of the state. And the desire for freedom and growth is innate, meaning capitalism is inevitable, waivers, totalitarianism, violence, poverty, and war. Allegation 2003. Propensity to culture is firmly embedded in the most contemporary cultures. People everywhere want visible improvement in their economic status and living standards. The people of poor countries serve as a basic goal to the transition of the poor and middle class. Any serious attempt to frustrate these expectations and desires, the majority are likely to fail and create disastrous counter-reactions. Any attempt to slow progress to catastrophe-prone, it would require the creation of the extraordinary repressive government. National security challenges and poverty be solved only in continuing the growth environment and limits to growth position. Increase in normalcy costs the cost of creating resources needed for expansion makes it more likely misleading debate, misformulation of the issues, and less likely the construction and creation of lives. And I'm going to skip this last card and go to the fact that racism is inevitable. It's rooted in human nature. Lepore and Brown in 1997. People with memberships in fundamental categories such as race seem to be attended to, and the negative group stereotypes can be thought of the cognitive component of prejudice. Prejudice moves from the normal cognitive process and seems to be inevitable. People will view prejudice so long as they can continue to think. And go back to the capitalism impact debate. Free market capitalism is vital, preventing extinction and ensuring quality and value to life. Also solves disease, poverty, means capitalism most moral. Rockwell in 2002. To the free market, we all the material propensity, health, our growing population, nearly everything we can call itself. The capitalism belongs has rescued the human race. Poverty, sickness, and early death. In the absence of the economy, the world's population would shrink to a fraction of its current size. Capitalism is an expression of freedom. Individual rights are respected, where every form of association prevented the flourish. In the absence of coercion, theft, war, and aggression, capitalism protects the weak against the strong and granting the choice of opportunity in the masses. Still with 42 seconds left, we can see that the neoliberalism is the only way that we can have the capitalism that we currently have in the current society today, which means that all of the impacts that he reads in all the critique means that our impacts are going to outweigh at the end of this round. Neoliberalism is key to capitalism. Capitalism is key to any value to life whatsoever. Also solves instances of disease, which means that it probably solves the space colonization we talked about earlier in the debate round, because Hawking makes several claims as to why these diseases are the only reason that we could see the extinction in the next 200 years, and it's the only instance in which extinction that the affirmative doesn't already solve, the Hawking talks about. He also talks about like nuclear wars leading to extinction in the next 200 years. So capitalism solved these diseases, which means that we probably solve all instances, which means that the space colonization still outweighs at the end of the round.